So as you can see, a standard cardboard box here. It's something that I've been wanting to pick up for a little while now, and I was definitely reminded of it after the last Windows on Wednesday video where I tried to get networking working on my NEC PC. And I had to bust out my little janky setup with the Amtron 18 motherboard. And I realized that I don't really have a way of properly testing, older boards like that, other than just sitting them on top of like a cardboard box or something like that, which I don't necessarily like doing. The board itself is not the concern. It's more expansion cards. I don't like them just dangling around. And so I was browsing AliExpress as one does, and this was purchased before the de minimis exemptions were terminated. So I didn't have to pay anything extra. Fortunately, I don't know what the situation is now because that's constantly changing. So do with it what you will. But if I remember, I'll try to put a link to it below. Anyway, I went ahead and ordered one of these things. And they're calling it a mining rig mount. For all intents and purposes, it's basically just part of an ATX case. So you've got obviously the bracket here for expansion cards. This is where the input output is in the motherboard. A little bit of damage here. It's a little bent, but that's not a big deal. This isn't very thick steel. And there's a spot here for an SFX power supply, though the way it's designed, it should be able to also support a full one. And of course, there's some instructions, some miscellaneous standoffs and screws and everything. And then, of course, the main support plate itself, which rattles because apparently these things come off. I don't know what those are just yet. They're probably some sort of support brackets for the actual expansion cards and everything. There's a dent here too, but again, not the strongest of steel. And as you can see, this is pretty much only packaging. And I picked this one up, even though it's only for ATX, because for the most part, some, if not most, of the mounting positions on most AT motherboards should match up. And I wanted to get something that I could technically use on both. I mean, the only thing this won't work on are what are they called? The LPX format boards. Those are the ones that you would see like in the NEC PC here. The ones that need like a riser card or like Packard bells, things like that. So, but basically I went and just grabbed this because it was relatively cheap compared to the rest of them. And I believe it just goes like that. And everything should just line up and hopefully it'll work. Before I get everything assembled first, I want to test fit an AT motherboard on here to make sure everything lines up correctly. In the event I have to drill out some extra holes. And if I do, not a big deal, but I'd rather not, especially since I don't have a way of creating self-tapping holes or anything like that. So, although I suppose I could drill out a hole and then sacrifice a screw or two to create something. But I'll go grab that Amtron board and we'll give it a shot. There, get a little bit of a different perspective here. And for those who don't remember what it looks like, there's that along with some USB ports attached and a serial port. And in theory, it'll just mount roughly there, give or take. Actually, probably a little bit lower, I should say, because typically the AT keyboard ports towards the bottom. I don't know if it's like that now, but even early ATX cases maintain compatibility with AT motherboards because there were a lot of people that were still using some old hardware, and there were still a lot of these AT motherboards around even when the ATX form factor came out. So why wouldn't you? But I'm probably going to go ahead and put the brackets on first just to get that mounted because I don't like it just falling. Wow, you can really see how warped it is. It's not worth returning it. Again, I didn't pay a whole lot for it, and it'll probably get worse shipping it back and have to deal with that. Plus, like I said, uncertainty with tariffs and exemptions and everything on the de minimis and whatever. I'm not an economic expert, so we won't go into it. So per the instructions, I most likely have this bracket here. I don't believe this is for the eATX. So apparently there's mounts here for various types of hard drives that you can attach. I guess, I don't even know how. I guess you would do it like that. Kind of interesting. But I guess if they're 2.5-inch discs, not a big deal. Especially if they're SATA SSDs, they'll be nice and lightweight enough. What else we got here? Looks like there's also another spot here for something to be mounted. Probably a 3.5-inch disc based on the positioning of the holes. And yeah, I'm sorry if this image is washed out. It's probably a little bit easier to read there. But basically, these things just break off over here, and they just add a little bit of support at the end there. Kind of looks like that when it's done. And it's basically designed for mining and stuff like that, but it can also be designed for doing test rigs, things like that. If you've seen any of the large YouTube channels that do a lot more modern stuff like Jay's 2 Cents and etc., they have similar setups, although theirs is probably a lot more advanced, and they probably paid a lot more than I did, that's for sure. So anyway, enough rambling. Let's get this thing together. Basically, this should just have to file that down because it's a little sharp, as well as on these ends here. So of course, filing it down kind of stripped away some of the powder coating on there, but I'm just going to take a black magic marker and color it in. Not that it's going to matter because they're going to end up getting scratched up and everything over time anyway from use. Not that I'm using these on a daily basis, but whatever. Am I doing a perfect job? No. Do I care? No. Good enough, whatever. Oh, neat. It even comes with a little power switch. No reset though, but that's fine. I think I've got some extra switches somewhere. Also, this neat little key here, which you can use to actually secure the standoffs. And let's see if I can do this without breaking anything. You know what? That'll do. Yeah, that's stable enough. Now, of course, the question is, let's see if I can get an AT motherboard to properly line up without needing to do any more modifications to this case here. Let me install a card. Now, of course, because I don't have any standoffs on it right now, it's not going to be the proper height. 4 holes line up, and I'm not sure if it's going to show through on camera. Let me see if I can get a even better angle. So it's almost difficult to see. However, this one screw does line up here, and if we move over here, there's another hole there and there. So these 4 screws do line up, and it just so happens, at least on this particular board, there's the other 2. Those are the ones that would secure with screws to the actual motherboard tray, frame, what have you. And then the rest of these holes that are here would just be for the little nylon standoff. So this board does hang over the edge a little bit, but it's not that big of a deal. And sure, it lines up with this particular board in this fashion. Other boards I install may need different standoffs and everything. Standards, they're not very standard. So, but let me get some of these actual brass standoffs installed. We can properly mount this. We're going to be using this bottom screw here. And I won't tighten them just yet. I just want to just verify everything here. Looks like it's going to be using this one as well. And then the next 2. Let me find out. Yep, that's it. Perfect. Let me tighten them. Well, that should be good enough. All right, let's go ahead and get this mounted here. Hopefully these 4 will be enough, and I guess maybe for testing purposes they should be. Actually, I just realized something. There is one more hole up here that there is no mount for. Again, I suppose it's fine. Maybe these 4 will be enough. And there's that. Again, there's a little bit of flex, especially up here towards the top of the board, because I don't have any supports. I can put one here. There's not much I can do about this corner here. I guess I could put like a rubber foot or something underneath. I think those are about the same height. So anyway, let me finish assembling this, even though it's just for testing purposes. I'll finish assembling it just to see how everything looks. Graphics card in here. Still not perfect. Again, cheap metal. As long as I can hold everything in place, I'm okay with that. And as I said, this serial port is almost long enough to reach this actual mount. So maybe I can get a longer cable attached to it one of these days. But whatever, for testing purposes, it's good enough. I don't have a power supply to throw in there, but it would just sit up here towards the top. But for all intents and purposes, that's going to be a much better test setup for whenever I'm doing this. All in all, though, I do like it. It's going to be a step up from just a random cardboard box or anything like that, especially since now I won't have just cards dangling about or anything like that for testing and all that. Not that I get a ton of motherboards to test with anyway, and I'd probably say that the majority of the retro boards that I actually have in my collection, and when I say retro, I'm talking about like 2000 or earlier, they're the, what are they, I guess before the LPX boards, so they won't even work in a setup like this. And then, of course, you have this ugly gap there because of the AT motherboard keyboard connector, and in this case, also a PS2. But I bought these a long time ago, fashion some custom ones out if I needed to. Again, that would probably work for this particular board, although the keyboard connector I'm pretty sure is pretty standard. I don't have another AT board to test with, so I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure that the positioning is pretty standard for them. And I have seen some, like I said, older ATX cases when they first came out. They came with their own blanking plates that had just a cutout for an AT keyboard. There might have been 1 or 2 that I ran across over my history here that also came with a cutout for the PS2 mouse, but I don't remember. So yeah, like I said, I got this from AliExpress. It was $17.73 plus tax or shipping or something. It came out to $18.42. I got it from the LLT Dro shipping store. I thought that said drop shipping for a second. Again, with the whole thing with tariffs and all of that, I can't guarantee that that's what you're going to pay. So what you guys think? Do you have anything like this? Should I have gone with a better one? Is this good enough? Is just a cardboard box enough? Let me know down below. Otherwise, thanks all. Catch you later.